Ward Conerly was born in Louisiana in 1939. He never knew his father, and his mother passed away when he was a young boy. After her death, Ward lived with various relatives in different states before moving in with his maternal grandmother in California. Ward spoke of a rough childhood. From an early age, he took various odd jobs to bring income to his family who faced poverty. After graduating high school, he eventually gained a degree in political science at Sacramento State College. In 1959, while he was a student, he organized a protest against housing discrimination in the local community. His efforts were so successful that he was invited to testify at the state legislature, which helped pass a fair housing bill. After college, Ward took a job at the state housing department. Through his work, he met an upcoming state legislator and chairman of the state housing committee named Pete Wilson. The two became close friends, and in 1969, Wilson hired Conerly as the housing committee's chief consultant. As Wilson's political career progressed, so too did Conerly's. In 1990, Pete Wilson ran for governor of California and won. In 1993, he appointed Ward Conerly to the Board of Regents for the University of California. At the time, the board consisted of 25 members who made decisions for 170,000 students across 9 campuses. Conerly became known as an outspoken member of the board. He often advocated for students and opposed tuition increases. In 1994, a couple came to Conerly and claimed their son had been rejected by the University of California San Diego Medical School because he was white. They presented data which they claimed was proof that Asian and whites had high academic scores but were often turned down in favor of racial minority applicants with lower academic scores. Conerly, who had already begun to question affirmative action policies at the University of California campuses, agreed. In 1995, at a board meeting, Conerly proposed that the school use social and economic factors in admissions and exclude consideration of race. During the 13-hour meeting, board members and protesters led by Jesse Jackson argued about the plan. Protesters accused Conerly of acting as a black frontman for Governor Pete Wilson, who was running for president at the time. Conerly denied these accusations, pointing to the times he had opposed the tuition increases which Wilson had supported. The board decided in a split vote to end consideration of race in university hiring and admissions within the next few years. The next year in 1996, Conerly joined California Civil Rights Initiative, or CCRI, which was seeking to pass a ballot initiative prohibiting consideration of race in admissions across the entire state. Civil rights groups, along with the Ford, Rockefeller, and Carnegie Foundations, banded together and contributed $1.5 million to defeat the ballot initiative. In the election of November 1996, Proposition 209, as it was known, passed with a vote of 54% in favor and 46% opposed. The American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit to stop the law from going into effect, and the Clinton administration pledged their support. This legal challenge eventually failed. 2 additional legislative efforts to repeal the law, one in 2014 and another in 2020, were attempted, but these also failed. It seems that in a state which became known for its multicultural population and political liberalism, affirmative action was not welcome. Ward Conerly was criticized harshly for his involvement. Journalists published allegations that Ward's light-skinned grandmother was colorist and had raised Ward to avoid darker-skinned black people. Some relatives reported that he had exaggerated the extent of his childhood poverty. Others pointed out that his wife was white. To his critics, Ward Conerly was a walking stereotype of a black conservative. A black state senator, Diane Watson, told the Los Angeles Times, "He's married to a white woman. He wants to be white. He wants a colorless society. He has no ethnic pride." Whatever his real motivations were, observers noticed the divisions this issue caused even amongst those who supported civil rights initiatives. Like the DeFunis and Bakke cases, tensions about race, ethnicity, and levels of disadvantage were difficult to resolve. David A. Hollinger, a history professor at the Berkeley campus and supporter of affirmative action, watched the debate with chagrin. For years, there had been a tacit agreement not to ask hard questions about affirmative action, Professor Hollinger said. Then when the time came to defend it, he said, partisans were ill-prepared. Indeed, they had their own unresolved conflicts, which made their side all the more vulnerable to an attack like Mr. Conerly's. Some believed in affirmative action to promote cultural diversity. Others found absurd the assumption that culture follows blood. Some thought non-white skin color an inescapable burden in a biased society. Others asked why the children of wealthy blacks or newly arrived immigrants were favored over the children of poor whites. Some said the program ought to be limited to Black Americans burdened by the legacy of slavery. Others said Hispanic Americans should be included, pointing to the conquests of Mexico in 1848 and the United States imperialism since the Monroe Doctrine. Since the 60s, diversity in America meant the arrival of ethnic groups who did not fit neatly within the Jim Crow racial categorization system. This left even advocates of affirmative action unsure who the program should be used to help and sometimes uncomfortable about who the program could hurt.